the orange stain, he basically like mutters the word all, and customs like forgets that books are a different thing than something else. And the MAGA people just hate the word books anyways.
What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto, like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1750. That's right, the big 1750 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Toronto's waterfront BIA. The air show is coming. Get yourselves to the waterfront to enjoy the festivities. Blue Sky Agency, the official distributor of Silen's quiet, comfortable, and customizable office pods. Create sanctuary within your workspace. Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. We can wrap up the first round with a win Tuesday night. That's August 26th, 7:30 at Christie Pitts. I'll be there. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Today, returning to Toronto Mic'd, it's the world's most widely recognized journalist covering heavy metal. It's Martin Popoff.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Ready to roll.
Well, you know what I say? I say we've already begun. Thanks for making time for me this Monday morning. Or no, afternoon now. This Monday afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you in Toronto right now?
Yep.
Cool.
Ready to go to Oasis, actually. I've got a buddy in from England who's working on a TV series here, and he says, I got to convert you to Oasis. So we're going tonight.
Well, this begs the question. So you haven't been converted yet. So what's your current take? Like, what is your current opinion of Britpop phenoms Oasis?
Oh, I'm way low on them. I haven't paid very much attention to them at all. I don't really boy. if I was to go through a checklist of it, it's like, don't like the singing, don't like the lyrics, don't like the production, don't like the guitar work, don't like the album covers. I'm entertained by the interviews, and that's about it. I can see being converted and maybe go in the back door through Noel's solo stuff, perhaps. But no, I just haven't been a fan of any of that music really, except for, and I think it's beneath them to put them in the category. But Manic Street Preachers, I love to death. I play them all the time. But that's really the only band semi-associated with that I've been into.
Okay, if you tolerate this, your children will be next.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, by the way, lucky you, hopefully tonight, or when you see Oasis, that it's not going to be as wet as it was yesterday. I saw a lot of pics and stuff from a very wet Rogers Stadium.
Yeah, there's still the threat of rain a little bit, I think, but we'll see.
We shall see. So thanks for making the time here. Definitively, do you know how many books you've authored in your career?
About 135.
So you don't have about 135. So it might be 136. It might be 134.
No, it's almost like anything when someone tries to think of a short answer of something. So a lot of them are updates of old books. So do you really count them? There's things like Goldmine record price guides that my name is on 5 of those when I was running those. And am I really writing those? I'm really compiling a pile of data and doing a little writing around the edges. So a lot don't have a lot of writing in them. Or not that many, but some don't have a lot of writing in them. But some of the updates, they get a new title, a new cover, they get expanded. When is it a new book kind of thing? So it's just a good round number.
Great debate. Like how much new content needs to be in there for you to consider it a new book.
Exactly. Yeah. And you think of the reviews book. So I did my very first book was a big book of heavy metal record reviews. Then that got hugely expanded in 97. And then we split it into 4 decades, and then it got even more expanded at that point. So
Well, 135. See, because I'm a big, archiver. I know how many kilometers I biked this month. I know this is episode 1750, so you're the 1,750th episode. So you're
Nice.
about 135. By the way, on that note, let me just tell the listeners. So I have a very specific reason I reached out to FOTM Martin Popoff today, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I just want to tell the listeners that you can hear Martin Popoff on a previous episode of Toronto Mic'd, because we connected in March 2022. I had Brother Bill and Cam Gordon with me, and we dove into the history of metal in Canada. So this was your second appearance on Toronto Mic'd, and it's long overdue, Martin.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was a cool idea.
Well, I look back at that sub-series of Toronto Mic'd. We called it Progressive Past of Modern Melodies, because Alan Cross at Chorus has the ongoing history of new music, and I wanted to have a title that was kind of like synonyms for those words. So instead of ongoing history of new music, it's progressive past of modern melodies. You get that?
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Nice.
You could appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah.
And one other note before we dive into the subject at hand, which is I subscribe and listen to History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. And you do great work on that podcast, Martin.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty simple idea. It took me about 5 minutes to come up with it, but then it's lasted. It's just seems to be a good sort of bone structure to do these things on. I do no editing. I just go for it. All we do is strip in the songs. So I just come up with an idea and let her rip. We're up to 322 of them now.
Do you ever get concerned you'll run out of ideas?
Yes. Not so much the ideas, but it's like I'll run out of my knowledge base. I'll repeat myself. I do worry that I'm like kind of going over things that I've gone over before. I also worry that I'm going over things that we've covered on our YouTube channel, The Contrarians, or I've done on other people's shows. That's not so much of a concern. But it's if I want to put the work into it, it's funny. If you really want to put the work into this stuff, you can do lots of things and lots of talks on topics that you have to do a fair amount of research on to come up to speed and do them on, right? I don't want to do that out of laziness. I don't want to actually just go do that work to do a podcast. That's number one. But number two, I've always found that when I had to do a lot of research on something, it just doesn't come flying out of me super fast, and I'm looking at notes and stuff, and I constantly think, the older you get, the more you know what you don't know, and you're at that point where half the time you're thinking, when you're talking about something you don't know about, you're thinking, oh, they're gonna suss me out on this as a fraud. I really, it's gonna be obvious to the super fans that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I guess after tonight, when we get 5 greatest Britpop acts, then we'll know, okay, what's going on there.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going in this, obviously having seen, watched Oasis's career through the years, I'm going into this being like a really low level fan. I really don't know anything about Oasis. So.
I'll say this again. I'm not a metalhead like you, and I'm a few years younger, but those first 2 Oasis albums were so key to I had them both on CD, and I listened to them both often in the 90s. So I still think, maybe because my ears better, they more, unlike yours, they prefer that 90s alt rock sound, maybe even more than a metal sound. And I got to say, I think those are 2 stellar albums.
All right.
So we'll see. Let me know. I look forward to hearing your review on Oasis tonight. Yeah. And I want to hear what you think of the stadium too, because I have not seen a concert there. But I've heard,
first time too.
I've heard logistically, I mean, personally, I biked all my shows, so I think I'd be fine. But logistically, I've heard some horror stories getting in and out of the stadium. I'm curious. I'll be curious what you think of that.
That's an awesome idea. Yeah, to bike to something like that would be great. Yeah.
Well, you could do that.
Yep. For sure. Yeah.
So we mentioned 135 books. How, traditionally, How do you sell these books? Like, do you self-publish and then direct sales to the metal fans out there?
I really haven't self-published much in a long, long time. I used to self-publish more. So, for the last bunch of years, it's all through different publishers. I have one UK publisher who has now published about 50 of my titles. And a lot of those titles were self-published in the early days, and then we buffed them off and they took them over, so they're through a publisher, right? And the rest are through ECW Press here in Canada, but also two really good big publishers in the States, Schiffer Publishing and Quarto. Quarto Motor Books Voyager. They go by a lot of names. So they've done about 25 books of mine. But I just signed on with these guys. You see the Dio book out here, which isn't even out yet, and the big, massive 666 page Iron Maiden book, and a 640 page Deep Purple book, which is out even after the Dio, which I just got my copy in the other day. So those two publishers are in the States, right?
Right.
And so to answer your question, what I've done a lot of over the years is I always buy copies of all my books, and I'm a mail order guy of my own books too. So when you say, how do I sell my books? Well, 95% of them, or even way more than that, are just like the publisher doing what a publisher does and putting them on Amazon and putting them in bookstores and them selling them, and maybe some of them will sell direct or whatever, blah blah blah. So most of my book sales are just done the usual way. But it's a big chunk of my income every year being a mail order guy of my own books when you have that many books, because a lot of people are taking 2 or 3 at once and all that. And a new book comes out and I'm just instantly moving like 100 copies, signing them, sending them out and stuff. So, but that's sort of coming to an end right now.
Okay, and that brings us to this conversation, because I know, as a listener of your fine podcast, History in 5 Songs of Martin Popoff, that's you. Like, I know you'll talk about martinpopoff.com, and people can go there and, you'll ship them books. But and again, I got to timestamp this, so, because who knows what'll happen 10 minutes from now. But August 25th, 2025, about 1 p.m., if I go to martinpopoff.com, the site's not there. It's more of a we'll see you later, we'll be back, under construction kind of a notice. So tell us in great detail, because I'm very curious, why did you shut down martinpopoff.com?
Well, I don't want to bore you with this, so I won't give you the massive long answer.
I like to be bored. I like the maybe I'm the last guy who's curious about the details.
Well, okay, so it all started back on May 5th when Trump suspended the de minimis rule for anything made in China, right? So that was the first thing. So the de minimis rule was something made in the 1930s where all packages going all over the place into the U.S., from all over the place into the U.S., didn't matter where it was made, didn't matter where it was coming from, up to $800 value, no duty, it's duty free, no paperwork, nothing too complicated, right? So the first test of this whole thing was when this happened with China. Turns out a whole pile of my books from Quarto and my big Iron Maiden from Schiffer, brand new books, which I could probably sell a lot of copies of if I could. They're all made in China. So that caused that problem right away. So the current situation with China is there is tariffs, and it's like 35%. It's not supposed to be. We're all arguing with the mail house about that, and Kuzma and IEPA and all this, and books are supposed to be duty free, blah, blah, blah. I'll get into that later. Yeah. But so at that point, it's almost like, I'm proving what I thought was happening with Trump's tariffs in most cases, right? It's like the left all says, oh, you know what? It's the importers that pay all the tariffs. And the right is all saying, oh, we're collecting billions of dollars in tariffs every month, right? So it's somewhere in the middle, right? So the point is that I write these emails, and I swear it's like what's happening on a much, much grander scale where two parties are saying, let's share the pain. You pay half the tariffs, I'll pay half the tariffs, and we'll both complain, right? And so it's kind of like proving Trump correct in that it's not always it's not going to be the American consumer at the end who's going to pay all the tariffs. I'm living proof that we're splitting it, right? So that's China. And then what happened was on around August 1st, I looked up the big beautiful bill, and it said the de minimis thing was going to end like July 2027 or something. Then 2 days later, he says, "No, I'm changing that to August 29th this year." So now all stuff coming in from everywhere into the States, no de minimis rule. So it's essentially, I'm seeing on Facebook all my buddies with like CD exporter companies from Europe or Australia are all saying, we're suspending shipments. It's too much hassle. Screw it. We're not sending stuff to the States. It costs us money. It costs you money. Right now with my mailing house, you got to put in manufacturer situation if it's China. So it takes an extra few minutes. And it does cost more. There's a little admin fee, but mostly it's the tariff thing, right? So de minimis is a different thing from how are books supposed to go and how is media mail supposed to go. That's the other thing. So, the orange stain, he basically like mutters the word all, and customs like forgets that books are a different thing than something else. And the MAGA people just hate the word books anyways. It's like an intellectual product. It's like, so it just puts them in a bad mood probably anyway.
It's for the elites.
Just say, yeah, we don't care. Let's just, everything's got a duty on it, right? So even with my mailing house, books right now is supposed to work through their little fancy computer system at 7.5%. It doesn't. It's 35. And the whole Kuzma thing. So we're having these Ask Me Anythings with my mailing house, and even this thing, if something's covered under Kuzma, it still means you have to go get this form filled out and do all this crazy stuff and then prove that it's under Kuzma. You just don't say, oh, guess what? Everything under Kuzma is fine, right? No, it's still a bunch more admin. So the bottom line is I closed my site a couple of days ago until whatever changes happen, if it does happen. I mean, August 29th, we're talking right now on the 25th. There may be a threshold where there's so much people complaining that something gets changed. It might have to do with de minimis and stuff. But one thing I've been telling people is that everything in the news, everything that's big in the news about tariff rates, the tariffs are on, the tariffs are off. That's all everybody talks about. When these finicky little things like de minimis get done, I swear, like the Democrats might win and everybody will forget to change this stuff back, right? It's all these little things that you wonder that they're going to get to, kind of thing. I mean, it's not really on the radar. You never see any news about this stuff, but a lot of people are complaining. And the reason it was, let's go back a second. So the reason it was put in the first place in the 1930s was that it's more hassle and more expensive to collect small amounts of duties than it is, just letting them go, kind of thing, right? But the reason he removed it on China was that these big mailing places like Temu or whatever, where it was basically against them, not realizing that everybody all around the world who exports small packages, who runs any kind of mail order business, now is a hassle dealing with the States. So the rules are all up in the air. We're going to see what happens, but as it stands right now, it's just too much of a pain to want to be selling anything into the States. So I haven't restocked stuff. So the main reason I closed my site, really, more than even everything I just said, is that I've been running this massive fire sale since the beginning of August, getting rid of so much stuff that I didn't want people to order things, just hit the PayPal button on things that I don't have, because when I refund them, PayPal keeps the fees now, right? So I was out of so much stuff that I didn't want people ticked off that they're ordering things that I don't have, and I have to refund them, and PayPal keeps the fees. So that was the main reason to take it off. But like I say, the other reason is if everything stays the same after this, every single book, all this stuff, anything that I had made in Canada, which has been fine up until tomorrow, end of day tomorrow, because my mailing house is suspending early because things have got to get through the system. But I've been mailing and selling so much stuff because most of what I have is either made in Canada or made in the UK. And it's just these other ones that are made in China that have been the problem so far. Even my new Guns N' Roses book through Quarto, I happened to get made in Malaysia, so it was fine, right? My new Dio book behind me, which isn't even out yet, is made in India. So I thought, oh, that's going to be great. That's going to be fine. Business as usual. But no, then he changed it to August 29th. So it's every single country. So yeah, it's going to be a big deal. And it's just going to depend on how much anybody complains about this, whether anything gets changed.
Well, I've been, the reason I wanted to get you on is to get the details straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, because, the small guys like you and I, to learn how we're affected by these, the whims of the, as you call them, the orange stain. I like that. I'm gonna borrow that. But everything's 2 weeks and everything changes on a whim, and I'm not sure anybody knows exactly the details of what to implement. But it is fascinating to hear how somebody like you is affected by this whole tariff era that the orange stain has brought in here. Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, we do only really hear about the big macro things like
Right.
steel and aluminum and all that, and just these massive tariff rates that get applied to all. But I swear that is how our mailing house is very strict in going by the book. But the fact of the matter is, customs is literally kind of going on his whims as well. And then I'm surprised, there was one little point there a little while ago where they were saying it may not all happen on the 29th because it depends on how much paperwork it is for them to apply the system. So it might even turn out that after the 29th, they're just going to kind of let it go. But the mailing house also said that the point is on the 29th, on a dime, it can happen whenever they feel they can make it work, right? So it still might linger on after that, but yeah, who knows? I think Americans, I've noticed on Facebook, I think they're going to find out how many people are little mail order businesses out there, and how many are. I'm seeing a lot of hostility. People saying that's it, not sending packages to the States anymore.
Well, I mean, margins are already pretty darn thin, but to deal with you talk about the extra admin, but then the extra, the tariffs and all the rigmarole that you got to deal with here, at some point it becomes it's just not worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, but again, you hate Trump to get his way, but he might actually be right. There may be some industries that if it looks like these things are going to actually stick, that they will start producing more things in the States. Right. And printing's a funny one. Printing is not so far fetched as like iPhones or steel or oil or GM and everybody just re-engineering all their car plants in the States or Mexico and Canada. Printing is kind of somewhere in the middle where it's not completely out of the question that more books might get printed in America, because of this, right?
Let me ask you this question. Since you are the world's most widely recognized journalist covering heavy metal, I'm putting that in quotes. Everybody knows this, Martin, but let me ask you. So the typical metalhead, if I may, that's not an offensive term, right? I can refer to the metal. Sure.
Yeah.
The typical metalhead, because we all know the typical country music fan leans to the right. They're typically Republican. Like, this is something I understand to be true. Like, how does the typical heavy metal fan lean? Are they to the left? Are they centrist? Are they to the right? What would you say in your experience?
It's funny. I think through Facebook we found we've been very surprised that I would say 25 to 35 people have come out as MAGA types, and then they start arguing and stuff. You go, I had no idea that guy was like that, right? So how do they lean? I would say that. This might be a boring answer, but I would say it reflects the population almost. No, I would say it probably leans a little more left than the American population at large, right? Because how much of the right is MAGA really, right? So I would say 2/3 of the right is MAGA. I would say, check off many of the boxes, put it that way, kind of
Right.
thing. So if 2/3 of 49%, 2/3 of 50% is what? So 30, 33% of that. Let's maybe say a third of America is MAGA. I would say that slightly less of that is of the metalheads are like that.
Are you ever afraid as a business person? Are you ever afraid of like alienating that many metalheads by referring to their president as an orange stain?
No, I've argued on Facebook pretty openly, on and off, and you get mostly support, and you do get into some really fun arguments and stuff. I mean, you do get a lot of pushback, and there is a lot of arguing. But no, I think my views are pretty well known.
Well, you are Canadian, so
Yeah, and I watch all that. Guard the Leaf has a great channel, and I watch a lot of those things about the tourism stuff and what's going on there. And yeah, I mean, I've basically boycotted. I'm not going to the States anytime soon. I get so upset. Like some of these channels where these governors and stuff want to come here and talk to us and welcome us back and stuff. It's like, well, the point is, no, you got to go to Washington and complain to Washington. And, and I literally want to say, you want the Canadians to come back. You got to replace all the federal border agents with state border agents. You got to abolish ICE from your state. All these things that wouldn't even have crossed their mind. Right.
I'm so happy to hear this. Lately, I've noticed I've had a very short temper when it comes to people I care about learning that they're going to the USA for purely pleasure. Like if you're going for work, I can wrap my head around it. Or if you're going because you need to visit your old aunt and she can't make it up or whatever, you got to go down and visit your whatever. I can wrap my head around it. But when I hear, oh yeah, we're going to go to, I don't know, we're going to go to Disney World or we're going to go check out a concert in Nashville or whatever.
That's so funny you say that, Mike, because I've been watching a lot of Jays games lately, right? And because the Jays are doing really well, and I'm getting really more into baseball, right? Maybe it's a bandwagon thing, whatever. But I used to think, oh, that's so great. Look at all those Jays fans at this Miami game or whatever, cheering for them. Now it's like, I hate all you people. Right. What are you doing there?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like exactly, it's then a flip where you were kind of, oh look, we travel well, we're supporting the team. Now I'm pissed off if I find out a Canadian has gone to see, I don't know, a Tigers game in Jays versus Tigers in Detroit.
Yeah, I know. Even that, right? Even just crossing from Windsor to see a game, right? And we used to do that all the time. Like we are big Bills visitors, and we've been to. We've seen NFL games in probably 6 cities. We've seen baseball games in probably around the same. We've gone all the way to LA and seen NHL games in Anaheim and all. Yeah, we just got back from a very, very nice trip in Montreal, which by the way is probably my favorite city in Canada now. Just loved it to death. It was so cool. But yeah, we've got no plans to go to the States for anything for quite a while.
I've grown quite fond of Montreal myself. My oldest daughter is going to McGill, and she's been living there this is her 4th year there. So
nice.
I'm still a Toronto guy. I have no intention of leaving Toronto, but I know you're from out west, so it's a little different for you. But I got to say, a strong second right now for me in this country is Montreal. What a great city.
Yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday. I got to rate Toronto high too, but the only 2 places I want to live in the world, and are Nelson, BC or Manhattan. Those are my 2 favorites. And London, England would be close. Montreal is not above Toronto for me just because I'm too old to learn the language.
Right.
The whole French thing, right? But absolutely, I think it is my number 1 favorite city now.
Okay, but Manhattan off the list until there's a change down there, right?
Yeah, well, the change, like a lot of people say, the change is not Trump. It's Trump. It's all the people at Fox News. It's the 25 most powerful people below Trump. I would love to see a bunch of MAGA people recant, but that they're always going to be there, right? So it's like I get mad when Americans say, I'm not going back to the States until Trump's out of office. It's like, well, no, there's more than Trump's the problem.
Yeah, if Trump dropped dead today, cross your fingers, Vance as president, nothing changes. There's still this 51st state agenda and devastating this country of mine, Canada. economically until we apparently were so devastated we'll now beg to please become a part of the great United States of America.
Yeah, I've been hearing things on Vance lately, and it's like I'm almost a little optimistic that he would be a very different person than he is now. He's a pretty smart guy. He definitely David Frum has said that. David Frum's quite impressed with him, right? He knew him early on. I have a feeling if he came into power and he showed some power, if he actually was not scared of MAGA, I think he would change tack on a lot of different things.
Well, you have a more positive attitude than I do, that's for sure. Hey, can I go back to something just to clarify something you said early in this chat? You talked about over 95%. So is that over 95% of these book sales are not through martinpopoff.com?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
I just want to make sure because I got to make sure you're still able to sell these books and everything. So this martinpopoff.com shutting down and the direct sale there, that's just like a small percentage of the actual books that you're selling to metalheads. Well,
yes, but I make $20 a book when I'm selling it myself.
Right. The margins are higher.
$0 to $1.50 when it's through any other thing. Because a lot of books I'm taking a deal now these days where it's like just a flat fee for turning in the text, so I'm not even getting royalties. And if I am getting royalties, royalties on a book is like $1.50, right? Kind of thing. Maybe even less, maybe $1 on a smaller paperback or whatever. So yeah, I mean most of the lion's share of the sales are done the usual way. But it's really nice when I'm like constantly pumping books out, 100 packages, 200 packages a month,
right?
Sort of thing, of my own books, generally not 20 a book. I mean, it used to be 20 a book and it is about 20 a book when someone's just going to my site, hitting the PayPal button, ordering one book, right? So it's got one postage in there and all that kind of thing. But, as soon as people order a couple or three books from me, I usually waive the profit kind of thing and give them a nice package deal, but yeah, so I could keep doing these books, but yeah, I'm gonna make a lot less money on it, even though every book that comes out, I'm really only selling like I don't know, on average I would say 130 copies of a book of mine that I'm buying off a publisher, maybe 200, maybe 100, depends, maybe if it's just an update or whatever. But that little bit, right? So if it's 100 books and I'm making 20 a book, so it's adding a couple grand onto my deal, essentially, every time I buy books and sell 100, right? Put it that way.
I find it fascinating, this whole world. I find it fascinating. What is, of these 135 books, approximately 135, which is your greatest, like your best seller? Which of these 135 books have appeared in the most on the most coffee tables in this planet?
Funny you asked that, because they just did a very nice Toronto Star article on me, right? I don't know if you saw that. So full page of the entertainment section, turn the page, full page article this last Saturday, right? But the reason I bring that up is because they asked me that too, and then he went and found the answer. Cody, the guy who hang on, Corey, I can't remember who interviewed me. Hang on, what's his name? Corey. Anyways, he went and got the answer because I wasn't too sure, and right. I thought it was the very first Rush book that I ever put out, right?
Right,
and it turns out that probably is correct. And I think it says in the article 37,000 copies of that book. And then the whole Rush trilogy did really well too. Like when that thing was split into 3 books and greatly expanded, right? So that came out. So that was big. I've got other ones that through Quarto are probably in the, I don't know, what would you say, 12,000 to 18,000 range? Oh. Some books, right?
They often say like 5,000 makes you a Canadian bestseller, right?
Yeah, but I think they're referring to, So number one, I'm saying that's worldwide, right? And a lot of my book, like this shelf over here, all these shelves here, that's all foreign language, right? So there's a lot of worldwide, but I guess these numbers are more or less worldwide, and I would say 80% of that is in the States, right? But then, a lot of the books we put out through my UK publisher, they're printing 1,000 or and hopefully getting through 1,000, then maybe running another 500 or whatever. So lots and lots of my books are in the low thousands. But yeah, I don't think any of these, most of these American published books, they're wanting to get up into the high four figures at least.
Corey Atad is his
Corey,
name.
yes.
Okay, because I just found it, and it's funny because this episode this was literally like, I heard you talk about it on your podcast, and then just today, like this morning, I was recording with a client, and then I had this idea, like, oh, I haven't, it's rare to have this empty day. I have no Toronto Mike episodes recording today. I'm like, oh, if I can get Popoff on the line and get some answers to these questions, but I had no idea until right now that this Toronto Star article existed. This is amazing.
Like, yeah, it's great. It was in print and everything, man. Big, huge picture, and yeah,
okay,
2 pages.
This is cool. I'm looking to my left. I had a similar 4-color page, 2-page thing in the Toronto Star a few years ago. It said "Talk of the Town." I'm looking at it. I literally got a PDF of that front cover and I printed it, and it hangs on my studio wall.
Nice, very cool.
But I'm looking at these are great photos. So you had a Toronto Star guy come over and take photos.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you remember who it was? Oh, Richard Loudons. That's who came over to my house.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Richard's a legend.
And his dad was a legend.
His son Christian's getting into it. His daughter's getting into it. Richard's been there for like 30 years or something. I know him because our sons grew up together, so we'd be sitting at baseball games and stuff all the time. And so, yeah, he came over, took a bunch of shots.
Oh, they look great. Okay, so amazing. People, check out your Toronto Star it's called Prolific Rock Book. Hold on, I got to get this right. Oh, Martin Popoff, Toronto author of 135 books on bands like Rush and AC/DC, created a cottage industry. Here's what might spoil it. So I had no idea that existed, but I'm glad we got to, get the story from you. But I'm going to ask you about somebody on our way out, since I actually have Martin Popoff on the line here. In my opinion, I'm not a metalhead, but I do dabble. Okay, I do enjoy some heavier stuff. I don't think on this planet Earth, I don't believe there was a bigger name when it came to your, genre of expertise than the name Ozzy Osbourne. Like, I think, is there I have to use past tense, as sad as that is, but was there a bigger name in heavy metal and hard rock than Ozzy Osbourne?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised when all that happens and all the brouhaha from it, because there was obviously the big concert. That was a big deal. We did a couple video shows on that. When he died, I went on a couple radio shows, and I was supposed to be on Sky TV in the UK, but then they changed it. But I was on. I went and was part of an article for PBS, and I was on CBC News. I was on the news and on the website and all that. So it just went on and on for a long time. A lot of people I know were saying, "Yeah, I was interviewed by these guys and whatever," and everybody did video shows on it. And I did. I think I did 2 podcast episodes on it. Yeah, he was absolutely. And then, you learn through that process of talking about him, why he was so famous. And then, unfortunately, it comes down a lot to the Osbournes and stuff like that. And Sharon Osbourne's fame as well, as a American Idol or whatever show that was. She was
America's Got Talent, right? Maybe.
Okay, I don't know which one.
I know.
But the Osbournes is a big deal, and then Ozzy, and then a lot of the lurid headlines and biting the head off the dove and the bat and all that stuff. So yeah, he was huge. Most of us in the metal world, we're always a little uneasy about talking about Ozzy, because a lot of people don't realize he wasn't the guy writing the lyrics or the music. He doesn't play anything and all that. So that's always a little, even in Sabbath, it was Geezer Butler writing the lyrics, right? So that's always a little weird. But yeah, I would say the biggest name, we were all debating this recently in this little industry email group I'm part of, actually just over the last couple of days, who's the next biggest name. And we came up with like Alice Cooper, Angus Young. There's debate about Jimmy Page versus Robert Plant, James Hetfield. And we're starting to split it up by era and generation. People are saying Alice Cooper's maybe fading a little bit. Would it be David Lee Roth? People talk about Van Halen being one of these bands that seems to be centered out as a band that's going to fade a little over time, that people are slowly forgetting about, and people are quite surprised. They don't get talked about very much. A lot of guys are putting down Alice Cooper, but yeah, I don't know. Biggest name in hard rock and
Well, I
heavy
think
metal?
I have an answer. Okay, so I think about this stuff all the time. I don't know why. I always think about these things. And I think, just to go back to Ozzy for a minute, I think you had the trifecta, which is he's got the bona fides with Black Sabbath. Okay, but of course, Black Sabbath is a harder rock band and won't get you the mass, the great unwashed. But he's got those bona fides of Black Sabbath. So there's Black Sabbath Ozzy, but then there's solo Ozzy, and this is what actually captures me, at least my age. I'm kind of growing up in the '80s, and I'm kind of Crazy Train, and then I got No Rest for the Wicked. I had it on CD. I loved that CD. I played it all the time. Yep. No Rest for the Wicked. So there's that solo Ozzy. And you'll hear Q107 playing a lot of solo Ozzy. So you got to recap here. You got your Black Sabbath. That's the one big thing. Captures guys of a certain age. Then you got the solo Ozzy. But what breaks him to make him the most famous name in your genre is absolutely, and I didn't watch a lot of this, but it is the reality show. That's why my mom knows Ozzy Osbourne, right? So now the great unwashed, they know Ozzy as a reality TV star. So the three come together. And the only name...
Well, let's add to that, Mike.
Yeah.
Ozzy solo in the 90s.
Yeah.
Ozfest, and then Black Sabbath reunion, right? So you add all that together. I mean, Ozzy was a huge star. He's one of the only metal stars to survive the 90s as a massive act. It's Ozzy and AC/DC and Metallica rolling their way through the 90s, maybe along with a new band like Pantera. But he was big then, and he was still big in the 2000s, right? So as long as he was, and he put out records, and then at the end, surprise to everybody, he got two studio albums out in the last few years, right?
Right. Well, I'm going to throw another name at you because I'm hearing you. Alice Cooper, absolutely, he's a big name. That Alice Cooper's greatest hits that he put out, whatever, in the early 70s. Mm-hmm. Martin, I can't tell you how many times I spun that CD. I just love that stuff. Anyways, big guys.
Yeah.
So the name I'm going to throw at you, you tell me if it qualifies, if he's hard enough rock for you. I know you're a big fan, but I think the name Steven Tyler will be a big one.
Well, that's another band that I wonder if they are lasting as well as some of these other guys, right? You're right. He'll be up there, and I would say he's fifth or sixth out of all those guys we mentioned, right? Well, so you gotta have your Robert Plant, your Jimmy Page, Axl Rose as well. You've got to have Angus Young in there. You got to have Alice Cooper in there, and James Hetfield. I think the other three Metallica guys could go a little further down the list. But yeah, Steven Tyler, you're right about that, Mike.
Well, the two reasons, again, not to interrupt the great Martin Popoff here, but the two reasons I think Steven might even, believe it or not, be ahead of some of those people you mentioned is the two reasons. One is he totally captures what the Americans would call the MTV generation. I'm going to call it the Much Music generation. But Aerosmith has huge videos with Alicia Silverstone and Liv Tyler and everything, right? So they have this rebirth and video era there. But also, of all these bands, how many of them have a Billboard Hot 100 #1 hit? None of them really do, but Aerosmith does. They didn't write that song, but the Armageddon soundtrack, whatever, Diane Warren, I guess, wrote it. Yeah. But, I mean, Don't Want to Miss a Thing went to #1, so now, again, my mom will know that song.
Yeah, but they really faded out in terms of the recording career. People didn't like their albums kind of starting with Get a Grip, even in the early 80s with Done with Mirrors. So, you see that go down with the super fans. I mean, we all love the 70s stuff, right? So the recording went down, and then, I would say they haven't been that particularly famous. I mean, that last studio album was 2012, Music from Another Dimension. So that's a long time ago now, right? And then they've had the spotty sort of, a lot of drama lately with, are they going to continue or not or whatever. I think they seem pretty done.
Interesting. Now, by any chance, will you be at any of these The Who concerts coming up?
No, we were talking about that yesterday. I've seen them once. I think that's good enough. I do love The Who. I did do a big, beautiful Who Quadrophenia book that comes in a slipcase with cloth cover and all this stuff. And I have seen them once. And I think that's a band that is just too not really the band anymore, with just the two guys, an army of whoever kind of thing. It doesn't really feel like The Who to me.
Okay, I picked up a ticket for Tuesday night because it was a promotion by a pizza place. You can guess which one, because the price of the ticket was billed as $11.11.
Sweet.
And
wow.
But here's a little fun, and it's not a big deal to me because it's still worth it, but it's billed as $11.11, but there's a $6 venue fee automatically applied and then a $4 convenience fee. So it's actually, not that I'm complaining, it's $21. And so they'll promote it as, hey, get a lawn for $11.11 to see The Who, and then you'll buy it for $21.11.
Well, that's double, but I thought you were going to say 60.
No.
With all the stuff,
And then you realize, I would pay that money to see Tom Cochrane at Budweiser's stage. So,
yeah. No, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I would go for that amount too.
Well, this was pretty cool, man. We got to do this more often. At some point, I got to get you in the basement here, because if you come over, you get lasagna from Palma Pasta, you get fresh craft beer from Great Lakes, you get a measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home, you get a Toronto Maple Leafs book. I'm telling you, you get swag for dropping by. So at some point, we got to get you over.
I would totally do that. That sounds great.
What about Martin Popoff kicking out the jams? We literally play and discuss your 10 favorite songs of all time.
Wow, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay, so you're into that? Is that a commitment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
We're going to schedule that. Good luck with the tariff stuff. I hope it's not too painful and we rectify this, because I like your fiercely independent nature, and you should be able to direct sell without that bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like signing books and sending them out. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like mindless work that you could watch politics on YouTube while you're doing it and stuff, right? So yeah, it's too bad. But maybe the silver lining is I'll get to write more books and I'll get them out faster, because I just haven't been fast enough with them, right?
Wait until the metalheads realize ebooks are pretty good too.
Yeah, got a lot of those out there as well, and that will keep going.
All right. Thanks for doing this, Martin.
All right. Very cool, Mike. Thanks.
And that brings us to the end of our 1750th show. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. Much love to all who made this possible. Again, that's Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta, Toronto's Waterfront BIA, Toronto Maple Leafs Baseball, be at Christie Pitts, Tuesday, August 26th, 7:30 p.m. The Leafs could wrap up their first round series against the Barrie Baycats. RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Blue Sky Agency. You can write Doug Mills at Blue Sky Agency. He's Doug at blueskyagency.ca. And Ridley Funeral Home. See you all tomorrow for Toast with Rob Pruce and Bob Willett.